The Nintendo Switch 2 has once again exploded in its sales, and this time in Japan because of the looming price increase. Here in the West, the price increase isn't happening till September 1st, but in Japan, it's upcoming here. So we're going to talk about what is happening in Japan and why, and maybe what's going to happen a bit after the price increase. Are things going to crash down to lower levels? We'll discuss all of that and some big updates when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on the Nintendo Switch 2 and a brand new third-person survival shooter, AA style, that's got me kind of excited when it comes to later this year from a publisher that I usually don't play or like their games too much. So there is a lot to get into. But before we continue, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 at 140,000 subscribers or on September 1st, whichever comes first. Subscribe, like, comment. The winner will be chosen at random, and it's a worldwide giveaway. Thanks, peeps. Famitsu charts, May 11, 2026 through May 17, 2026. We've got the breakdown of what's happening here as Japanese gamers scramble from store to store to pick up the Nintendo Switch 2 before the 10,000 yen increase in price. Also, I think Nintendo Switch Online also going up in price, so people are trying to stack, do the best family deals, whatever they can before the price increases hit. The crunch is hitting all of us. But let's talk about this here. We also got some software updates as well. Tomodachi Life is literally becoming one of the biggest games, if not already, pretty much it is really the biggest game of the year for Nintendo so far, right up there with Pocopia. This game is doing incredible. So let's talk about that real quick. Then we'll discuss the hardware impact. Tomodachi Life, 98,092 units. This is just physical. We're not talking about digital sales here for that week that we discussed. And that's really good. Top selling game by a very good amount in Japan, not even including digital once again, where there's more. And I think it's #1 on the eShop charts for Switch 1 games too. So Tomodachi Life is taking a life on its own. And I think that the TikToks and all of the short edit videos that people see on different places are what's pushing this game to do so well. My daughter did not have a Nintendo Switch 2, did not care for it, and then she saw this game on TikTok and all of that type of stuff that she wanted me to get the game for her. So I was like, you know what, might as well just get it for her because she wants to play Animal Crossing in the future and Pocopia. So this game is really becoming something when it comes to the sales long term at this point. Now let's get into the hardware where the sales did explode for the Nintendo Switch 2. This is crazy. 217,922 units. This is usually what you'd expect in the holiday type of season, or maybe like when a massive game launches. But even when a game like Pokemon comes out, you don't see the sales this high. Now, Nintendo definitely upped their shipments to Japan in anticipation for people being able to pick up the system. There's no way that they'd be able to sell 200,000 units per a week. They're not shipping that much product there, so they obviously had product built up, stock shipped it there so people would be able to pick it up as much as possible, because there wasn't much of a time period, like a notification to let us know about the price increase. There wasn't a big buffer period between when they announced it and when the price hike is coming. It was a few weeks for Japan. It was a number of weeks, but here in the US, it's much bigger. We have months before we get that price hike. So Japanese gamers are scrambling to pick up the system. But what's going to be interesting is what happens after the price hike. Do these sales come crashing all the way down? I think yes and no. Obviously, you're not going to sell 200,000 units plus. That's just not going to happen. The Switch 1 barely sold 200,000 units plus in different weeks. Even in its best weeks, the Switch 1 would not sell that much in a week. So I don't expect the sales to be that high, but I do expect the sales to be averaging around what they usually do before big games come into play. So like when the Pokemon game comes out, or when there's something else that's big, the holidays, it's still going to go up to the levels of what you'd expect. But I do think that there will be a bit of a drop off just because the price is going up. So you're going to have that big software that comes out to help push the sales to say, okay, I think it's worth it. But I do think that the Switch 2 is going to continue to sell really well in Japan based on the games that are coming out, like Star Fox, Splatoon Raiders. There's still the Dust Bloods, Fire Emblem, Ocarina of Time remake should be happening as well. So I do think that there will be a number of other games that can help boost up hardware sales despite the price increase coming up pretty soon here for Japan. And of course, in the West, here in September, we will be getting that September first. The Nintendo Switch 2 actually outsold all other platforms by multiple times. If you're comparing it directly to the PlayStation 5, it was like 25 to 1 when it comes to sales, because the PS5 only sold 9,243 units, and the Nintendo Switch 1 actually outsold the PlayStation 5 by more than double, because that sold 21,392 units. And of course the Xbox Series, we all know nobody's really buying that, only 431 units. So when you look at it, Switch 2 dominating, but we will see what happens after the price increase when it comes to that. So we should get one more week of sales where the price increase is about to take effect. So we'll see how it kind of works out next week as well. But also seeing what works out to help boost sales, let's discuss Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on the Nintendo Switch 2, or a Nintendo Switch 2 edition. So over on Twitter, there was a user that tagged Nate the Hate, the prolific leaker, that let us know about some cool stuff coming up for this year, like Star Fox, and he's been right on so many things in the past when it comes to Nintendo. But anyway, somebody tagged him in asking about Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for the Nintendo Switch 2, and Nate said, my personal expectation is this year. So that's his personal expectation. I don't think he's saying that he's heard a bunch of information on that. That's just what he's expecting, or more like maybe. Now, he has stated before in his podcast that he expects those games to come. Maybe he's heard something a little bit here and there. Maybe he's not as confident on that as he was like on Star Fox or Ocarina of Time, but that's his expectation. Because if you dig a little bit further, people asked him some more questions on Twitter, and one person said, is there a reason you think Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Switch 2 edition is more likely over the other two, or do you think every mainline game will get it eventually, starting with 2? And then Nate said, I've never dismissed the possibility of the other two getting a Switch 2 edition. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 coming first, maybe over what we see with other things. Well, Nintendo did decide to do Xenoblade Chronicles X first on the Nintendo Switch 2 for a Switch 2 edition, and that game, technically, when it comes to where it came out, it was the last released on the Nintendo Switch 1. We got Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Xenoblade Chronicles 1, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, all first, before we got Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Nintendo Switch 1, but then Nintendo decided to make Xenoblade Chronicles X the first game that they did as a Nintendo Switch 2 edition in the Xenoblade franchise. So I do think it's possible for them to just pick out certain games and say, well, which one needs it the most, or where do we think we're going to do this first? So that's a possibility where they just do Xenoblade Chronicles 2 first, then maybe they do Xenoblade Chronicles 1 later, and then Xenoblade Chronicles 3, or it could be something to where they do it all at once. I think that would be a massive announcement if Nintendo just came out on a Nintendo Direct and said, oh, guess what's happening here? We've got Xenoblade Chronicles 2 coming. And then also we've got 1 and we've got 3, almost a la Bayonetta style, where they announced Bayonetta 3 and then 1 and then 2, like all of them all together at the Game Awards back in the Nintendo Switch 1 era. So I do think it's very possible that Nintendo does that approach, or they just simply do it at their own leisure when it comes to Xenoblade and space it out a little bit. Now, out of all the Xenoblade games, when it comes to how they function and everything, I think that Xenoblade X and Xenoblade 2, at least in my opinion, needed the updates more than Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 3. Now, don't get me wrong, Xenoblade 1 and 3 could use some frame rate and it can use some resolution boosting, but those games were a bit more refined when it comes down to it compared to Xenoblade Chronicles X and 2. 2 probably needs it the most. 2 might have needed it more than Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, because 2 just has quite a number of issues when it comes to the performance and all that. Now, if you're playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on a Nintendo Switch 2, then it's definitely better than the original experience. But Xenoblade Chronicles 2 definitely has some stuff that they can retweak when it comes to the blade system and how that works and the unlocks. They can make that so much better. They can make this game so much better to where they can put in a minimum amount of blade opens before you get a rare blade. So instead of it being completely random or whatever crazy theory they have in there, they can make it to where after 5 openings of core crystals, no matter what, you get a rare blade. That's the biggest problem with this game. There are some people who still don't have Cosmos despite opening rare blade over and over and over. So that needs to be tweaked when it comes down to it. There's no questions about it. That needs to be tweaked. They need to make it to where there's only a certain minimum before you get a rare blade, so you're not in that booster page or that opening thing for forever opening, like you're opening packs of Pokemon cards looking for a first edition Charizard. That's never going to come for most of us. So I think that's the problem. So I hope that they get that done. They retweak that experience, put it out there. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is still Monolith Soft's best-selling game of all time. It sold over 2.5 million units, probably more closer to 3 million units or so. We haven't got a sales update in quite some time, but I do think that this game would be great to bring back in. I think that people would be very excited about this because a lot of people have even become Xenoblade fans since the release of 2, playing 1 or even sometimes playing 3 or playing X and getting into the franchise, and people haven't necessarily played 2. So I do think it'd be pretty cool if they were able to bring back Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and get that cleaned up for the Nintendo Switch 2. I think it would do pretty well, all things considered. So Xenoblade Chronicles 2, hopefully that does come over. But let's talk about something actually brand new coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 that caught me off guard. I did not see Furyu, which is a developer, publisher that I don't really play all of their games. I haven't really been excited for anything that they announced for the most part. I mean, I've played some of their games, their RPGs in the past, but I don't really get too excited. But this new game here actually looks really cool. You guys are seeing it. I think it's called Animalth, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I mean, Animalth, something like that. Either way, it looks dope. This is a new survival third-person shooter, and it's got all sorts of crazy vibes that remind me of just like a variety of different type of games. So publisher Furyu and developer Wing Entertainment Group, formerly Natsumi Atari, have announced survival third-person shooter Animalth for PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC via Steam. It will launch on October 29th worldwide. A lot of times this publisher would do games in Japan first and wait a while, so the fact that it's launching worldwide, definitely a good idea. Has me excited based on what I'm seeing here. So let's go over some more information about this game. So Animalth takes players on a journey deep into the heart of an alternate reality twisted by cryptic forces, a cast of intriguing characters, and action-packed gameplay inspired by survival horror and anomaly horror classics alike. The year 19 spatial anomalies known as otherworlds have appeared without warning. The government's Danger Zone Countermeasures Office has been unsuccessful in repelling the threat and determining its origin. Players take control of investigator Ryona Minazuki, who has been awakened from a 10-year slumber inside an anomaly known as sarcophagus, and acquired a keen sensitivity to the other worlds. Working alongside her colleagues and commanding officers, Ryona strives not only to protect humanity, but help a dear friend. So there's a lot more stuff in that they talk about. They talk about the thrill of survival, going to the depths of the other worlds, investigating these anomalies, fighting your way by any means necessary. They've got this third-person gunplay that keeps you on your toes against these enemies that behave erratically and all over the place. Stunned enemies can be meleeed into submission, and all sorts of stuff happens. I also want to talk a little bit more about the customization and the fashion style. So in a world full of alien threats, you'll need all the options you can get for dealing damage. Animalth sports a massive variety of weapons, attachments, and outfit items, and artifacts dole out good or bad luck, while infusing weapons with additional abilities. Ryona's outfit is just as customizable, with more than 300 customizable items across 9 different parts of her figure. All right, nice, good stuff there. So you can carry out investigations too. So they have this investigation stuff. So meet a broad cast of characters at the home base in between missions, unlocking powerful upgrades and learning about the world Ryona is defending. While diving through the other worlds, players can collect more than 200 investigation reports detailing the behaviors and mysteries of each anomaly and other foreign objects, painting a clearer picture of the threat the world faces. So this is a crazy double A type of game that I really am more excited about these days than sometimes even the big third-party AAA games. So there's a bit more that I want to go over. So Animalth brings together some of the industry's greatest and most promising designers and artists, including scenario lead Romeo Tanaka, Stella of the End, Humanity Has Declined, character designer M.O.N. Nishino Ishii's Legend series, and composer Yuka Kitamura, who's done Elden Ring, Sekiro, Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, and Witch Hat Atelier. Anomalith is being published by Fuyu and developed by Winning Entertainment Group, formerly Natsumi Atari. So crazy stuff here. This game looks really cool. I was going through the trailer that they showed off, and it just looks like it's going to be like a really cool double A style of game. Kind of reminds me a little bit vibes of like Astral Chain in addition to Scarlet Nexus, these type of games out there. Now, I don't know if it's going to be as good as those games or anything like that. Looks a little bit dry in some areas, but if they can keep the variety good here and a lot of different enemy types to fight against and different cool, interesting story beats based on the type of game this is with all this customization and cool gunplay, I think this could be a great game. And like I said, I don't usually say this about Furyu games at all. Like, this is, I think, the first time that I said I'm super excited or I'm excited to see a Furyu game. But yeah, the gunplay looks good. The graphics are decent enough, and it looks like you're going to be able to do all sorts of cool melee type of attacks with a variety of different areas and cool boss battles too. So what do you guys think so far? I think this looks pretty good. And what do you think about all the different stuff with the sales exploding, in addition to what Nate the Hate had to say here about Xenoblade Chronicles 2? You guys think that's going to happen as well? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, and click that notification bell to get our videos as soon as they drop. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.